So, about that 16-bit winter thing that I never finished. Yeah, we're gonna try and do something about that by progressing a little more in Beyond Oasis. Now, when we last left off, we were on the heels of Silver Armlet, although we still have a ways to go. We've got to eventually go up a mountain and pass through a couple of fortresses, starting with this one. Now, the enemy AI will always kind of follow you around like this, so it's really easy to herd them all into a group and then just take them all out with normal slashing attacks. This can be a little tricky, though, as evidenced here. It's just a matter of being able to dash up here, and then sometimes they get a little confused if you end up directly between them. But anyway, at the top here, we're going to have another one of these armored guards here. Second verse, same as the first. We can just use the kick spam to take them out easily. We're not going to go through the red doors yet because we can't. We have to go through here and get the key to go through there. Now, there's actually a lot of items that you can pick up here. And in fact, more than I'm going to need. Now, important thing here, go through the door on the right first. Because in here we can get a key, some lettuce, which will restore half our hit points and spirit points, and a hyper bomb. And I'm going to drop the smaller power bomb for the hyper bomb. Simple way to avoid getting hit here, just stand below one of the diagonal points. The diagonal ones will take one regular slash, the others will take two. And you actually do want to stick around and destroy all of these. And it's not just because you can summon a Ifrit with that torch on the wall. This one drops grapes. And you know, if you need any more spirit point items, that's kind of handy. Now be careful when you hit the switch here, because boulder falls. And I usually do have Ifrit out for most of this fortress, simply because he's great for crowd control. Also, if you push him back all the way to here, the spike traps will do a little of the dirty work for you. And now with this key... Oh. Yeah, why not? Now, I'm just going to show you real quick what those doors at the bottom go to. They just head out to balconies. You can't do anything out here. So, we are going to go ahead and move through this area next. Sidestep the spear charging guy. And before we go through those green doors, we're actually going to turn back and go through those doors that we ignored earlier. There's actually no point in defeating all these guys. I just prefer to do it because... Ah, here we go. Get a couple more keys, another max spirit point item, and we can get a toadstool. And in situations like these, I usually am going to sacrifice a health point item for a spirit point item. Simply because the health point items are typically a little easier to come by. Now we're going to head down... Oh, wrong way. Actually, technically that's the right way, but I don't want to go there yet. There's really not much of a point to killing those things. And in fact, I can't control what Ifrit does with that anyway, so whatever. Let's go ahead and move down here. It looks intimidating, but you can just run through all of it. And in this room we will get even more items. And one of them is another one of these blue gems. Now, part of the reason that I'm so willing to sacrifice a couple of health items for spirit point items is because if I have Ditto out, I can use her healing spell. And because I've gotten a decent amount of blue gems, that means that it's going to recover a decent amount of health whenever I use it. And in this room, we can just say hello to our friend the ogre. 3 archers are going to spawn from the upper right, but Ifrit seem to have a pretty good handle on that. That and they're kind of milling around on their own. There's an armored guy too, but again, he's not going to pose much of a threat. I really should just walk out the door, but you know, since they went through all the trouble to try and catch up to me, I might as well give them a bit of my time. These bombs actually have a very long fuse, so you don't have to wait around. You can just jump over them and go straight through the door. Now if you charge fast enough, you can just hit them with a running slash and you won't have to deal with any bombs. And here you can just kind of hang around at the back of the room, make sure not to get shot by arrows, and they will walk directly into the spear traps. And this will take us outside. Jump kick the archer so he can't hit us. Thank you for the crowd control again, Ifrit. We'll eventually want to head off to the right, but for now we can just ignore the spear guy. This can be a little annoying at first. If you just kind of mill around the area that they generally spawn and put yourself into the line of fire, either directly horizontal or above or below them, they'll eventually spawn again, and their attack is pretty easy to dodge. It's just one of those things that once you know how to take care of it, it's not particularly difficult. And yet another reason that Ifrit is very useful for this section. Now I should note that you don't actually have to go here. I just prefer to go here, because once you kill everything, yet more items drop. Including a blue gem, a broadsword. Hold on. I'm going to drop the regular sword and pick up the broadsword because that one has 50 uses. Another item for summoning Ditto, and a fire gem. How come I call the blue ones blue gems and the red ones fire gems? It doesn't matter, you get the idea. Okay, now we want to head back to the right. We can't do anything about that treasure chest just yet. And we were going to have an armored guard waiting for us. Second verse, same as the first. That's the one annoying thing about Ifrit is, if you're standing too close to the enemy he's attacking, sometimes he'll just knock you over. And this is going to be particularly easy since we have Ifrit going too. I usually just keep him going for most of this fortress. And yet another spear point item. And here's where we get a little bit of story elements. This is going to help us figure out where exactly the silver armlet went. Now, this might look a little complex at first, but number one, you can use the bomb soldier to take out his allies. And two, there's only actually one character here that you need to kill. And it's the armored guard that has the shield and the different colored plume. The one that Ifrit is punching right now, because all the other enemies just die as soon as he goes down. And with that out of the way, we can now continue onward toward wherever Silver Armlet just went. I believe they called it the Wall Fortress to the north. And now suddenly desert. This is a fairly straightforward section. You just gotta do some basic platforming, figuring out where to jump off the cliffs to get to the next section. And there are a few items here that could prove useful. Also, new enemy type, bees. But you have to be careful about, because what they do is they'll just kind of mill around you for a bit, and then they'll start draining your health. So, they're supposed to be bees, but they act more like mosquitoes. There's a few things you can do about it. One, you can have a freed out to punch them. Two, you can just do the spinning slash. Or you can just jump kick over and over, which is what I tend to do. And again, you don't have to kill most of these enemies. In fact, you don't have to kill any of these enemies. If the jump kick thing doesn't work because the bees are too high, if you usually just stand still for a moment, they'll drop down to try and attack you again, and then you can hit them. Jeez. I forget how far sometimes the bombs can throw you backwards. Especially when it's the more powerful variants of the regular bomb. And bit of a mistake here. I was one screen ahead in my mind, because there are a couple areas in the next section that you want to drop down, but not here. And another thing to know is that you can just smack the bombs back at whoever threw them. Yet another reason that bomb guys are incredibly useful. And there's really not much to say about this section. I got lucky that he dropped a full health recovery slab of beef, even though I didn't really need it. Now this section, however, can be a little tricky. First off, up here, if you want it, there's some water coming through these cracks in the rocks, which you can use to summon Ditto. Is it Ditto or Dido? I never bothered figuring out, I just always say Ditto. Now, that treasure chest up there is actually not the one that's going to be too difficult to get. You can either just drop down from the upper level, or follow this path to the left in order to get it. We have another new enemy type here, although its only real annoying factor is that it can shoot those projectiles. And up here we're going to try and manipulate the bomb thrower again. Excellent. Usually whenever I possibly can, I just try to get him to blow up as many of his comrades as possible. It can be a little annoying to do at times, but if you're good at dodging enemy attacks, then it's worth trying to do. Thank you, Mr. Bombman. You have exceeded your usefulness. Okay, enough dicking around. Now let's actually try to get some of these items that are in this area. There are two particular that I want. Okay, the first one is right down here. And it's a sword. It's a different type, though. So we're going to drop the 21-use broadsword and pick up this sword, which is called Death. Now, Death is the second best sword that you can find in the field. Whereas the regular sword is about 5 damage and the broadsword is about 6, the Death sword does 7 damage. By the way, you can drop down the cliff and pick up this blue gem here. Now, for those of you just curious, the best sword in the game is the Omega Sword, which does a damage of 8. And, in fact, not only that, but it can also set enemies on fire. So, pretty awesome sword, and I look forward to being able to use it later on. For now, though, we have to continue progressing upward. And careful about these guys. Now, we're going to come up to the entrance of the wall fortress as soon as we deal with this swarm of bees. And there's something in particular to note about this area. It's not on screen yet, though. And just for convenience sake, I'm going to go ahead and take care of this. It's always so annoying when they fly out of range. Okay, you know, I was going to ignore him, but he went and made it personal, so there you go. Now, see that shiny thing on the ground? That relates to something that we can get from this area. However, for now, I'm just going to try and make my way up these stairs, because there is still something else we have to get from here. Well, not here, it's actually on the other side of this map, but, well, you know what I mean. Again, completely unnecessary, but he decided to step to me, so I gotta represent. God, that's the whitest thing I've ever said, isn't it? Getting back to Beyond Oasis. We want to move all the way to the right here and then jump down the cliff, because again, we will have another chest, which has a fire gem in it. And now, the rest of this is just going to be me dropping down here to summon Ditto for the next section. Although, I'm actually going to cut this video a little short, because the wall fortress can be pretty tricky. By the way, see how much health I regained just from that one heal spell? That's why you collect the gems. So next time on Beyond Oasis, we will get through the wall fortress and all of its annoying parts.